Anyway, welcome. My name is Josh. It's great to meet you. We are in a series called Ekklesia. We are talking about why the church exists, who is it for, why do we even do all of this. So we are in week 3 of that series, and I've been reading this book about, I'll just explain it. Basically, in the Midwest in the early 1900s, Oklahoma started to get settled prior to it becoming a state, and it became a spot where Black Americans could leave the South, they could leave the North, they could go to Oklahoma, and there was a specific area in Tulsa where they were resettling, and essentially it was entrepreneurs, it was doctors, it was lawyers, it was dentists, it was pastors and preachers, and they set up what was dubbed by, I believe her name was Mabel, I forget her last name, but this lady Mabel came in, and she basically was the one that they credit with dubbing it as what they called Black Wall Street. This was like, it was the spot in the country where freedmen could go and build a life. They had theaters that were, if you read about it, there was actually like this lady, I think her name was Lila. She set up a theater where they would show films, and it was Black-owned and operated. And then right across the street, a white guy from the Ku Klux Klan, he tried to open one. And if you read about it, like hers was full constantly in the early 1900s. Like it was hard to get into her business, and the other one, like no one was going, obviously, because no one wanted to support this guy. And that was basically the way that it worked. There were markets that were like bursting at the seams. It was like how you would have deemed like all men are created equal, they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That's like Tulsa at the time was a picture of like what could be, and people were going there in droves to start a better life for their families. And apparently this is why we can't have nice things, but what ends up happening is Oklahoma gets ratified as a state. When it gets ratified as a state, they introduce Jim Crow into this area, and what ends up happening on May 31st of 1921 is the white supremacists in the area, they would go to prisons where Black Americans were wrongfully arrested, and they would basically start lynch mobs at these places. And Tulsa just had enough. They're like, this is not happening here. Like, this is what we have is too good. And what started on May 31st was honestly one of the darkest moments in American history. We call it the Tulsa Massacre for a reason. It actually took a long time for us to actually start calling it the Tulsa Massacre because the rest of America refused to accept the fact that this was awful. So it was the uprising, it was the riots, but there is at least 300 people who were murdered. Every business basically was destroyed on Greenwood Ave, which was the epicenter of the businesses in that area. It was awful. And then these business owners were running thriving businesses, and then they would try to get the insurance payouts, but because they were Black Americans, they couldn't get the insurance payouts, and they lost tens of thousands of dollars, which if you put in today's dollars, it was like millions of dollars was lost because of the atrocities that happened on May 31st, June 1st, into the early morning of June 1st. It was horrible. What's so interesting about this story is that since that moment, the people in that area never stopped trying to rebuild what was. I think it's actually very interesting. As of like 1971, I think there was like 3 surviving people who witnessed and experienced the Tulsa Massacre, and they became spokespeople. And for literally decades, since 1921 till it's 100 years. We are 100 years in, and they are still rebuilding what was lost, to the point that the current Tulsa mayor just announced that they're going to be doing reparations for those who were affected by the Tulsa Massacre in Tulsa. It is a massive win for our country that this happened. But it doesn't work if the people that were there weren't resilient, they wouldn't take no for an answer, and they just decided what we had was way too good, we have to protect it. Despite what our culture wants to do, despite what the American system wanted to do, they consistently went back to rebuild what was lost. And for all, like literally from the rubble. And I think there's actually a lot we can learn from this mentality of wanting to be a rebuilder of things that were lost or things that are broken. Just building in general, I think, is something that it's almost like a lost art. Because when you have something that's really good and you lose it, sometimes it can like take the wind out of your sails and just be like, oh, and it always becomes like a memory of what was. And it's like, there's no way. So it's like, if you've been in a situation in your marriage where you've had like a massive argument and and it just, if you're not careful, you could let your brain go to a place where it's like, we're never going to get that spark back. We're never going to get that thing back. And it's like, no, like there's something about rebuilding and resiliency and not taking no for an answer that actually is a biblical principle. Like, building or rebuilding a great work, it never happens by accident. It's not by happenstance that things like Tulsa get rebuilt. It's not by accident. It takes ordinary people making conscious and courageous decisions every day in the face of adversity. And here we are today in the church, and I just need you to know, this is where like we stand as a church, is where I'm at. Like the church, the local church, it is a great work. Jesus spoke this thing into existence when he was talking to Peter, and it almost sounded like an off-the-cuff thing, but I think Jesus was being very strategic. He's like, you're Simon, but I'm going to call you Peter, and on this rock, I'm going to build my church. I'm going to build my Ekklesia, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. He says, what you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, what you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And it was a moment in time where the church was truly birthed. And it hasn't been without its dysfunction and without areas of it crumbling. And our job is to consistently rebuild the walls of what might be deemed broken. And so today we're going to talk about what it takes to rebuild the great work that is the local church. I believe it requires great people with resilience and sacrifice. And we've been focusing on Nehemiah over the course of the last couple weeks because I think his story is just like pretty incredible what he was able to do. Nehemiah, if you don't know, Nehemiah lived during the time of the Israel in the Old Testament. Israel was in exile. They were slaves in Babylon. And he got the job of cupbearer to the king, which was a bad job. Odds are you were going to die if you were the cupbearer. The thing that the cupbearer would do is if the king was going to drink wine or eat food, the cupbearer would drink it first in case anybody wanted to assassinate the king. You're assassinating the cupbearer, and everybody's happy. And so that was Nehemiah's job. Scary job. And the other issue with these kings is that they were seen as like demigods. So you couldn't go into their presence like sad, downcast, like you had to like fake it till you make it, or they would kill you. Like they don't need you, like they just need a cupbearer. Like he had no emotional attachment to Nehemiah. But Nehemiah got word that Jerusalem was in shambles. The people that were able to go back, there was no walls, they had no temple, everything they knew about their culture was gone, they had no national identity, and Nehemiah is just a broken man. He goes and he says, I wept and I prayed, I fasted, and I just asked God, he just basically asked God, like, give me wisdom and give me favor with the king. So Nehemiah goes to the king, and Scripture literally says, the king looks at him, he's like, Nehemiah, like, why are you so sad? Like, why are you so downcast? So they had some type of, like, cordial relationship, and Nehemiah just cuts to the chase. Like, this would be like getting into the room with the president or, like, I don't even know, and just being like, you know what, I'm ticked off, to be honest with you. Like, I'm a little upset. Like, no one would do this in their right mind. You'd, like, shake hands, you'd smile, you'd be, like, put on your best behavior. It's like, I'm dealing with some things, but I'm not going to show you because you're important and I'm not. But Nehemiah's like, dude, like, my city is in shambles. We have no culture. Like, my ask for you is that you just give me favor, let me go back and rebuild my city. And the king's like, okay, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then he even takes that stuff where he's like, actually, if you can give me some supplies and some like things I need, like that would be helpful. And they do it. I don't even know why they did this, but like the king supplies him with a bunch of things. Nehemiah goes back to Jerusalem and he starts inspecting the wall and inspecting the city and realizing that this is pretty rough. Like there's no way this is going to work. And so the first thing he does is not pick up a hammer and start working. That would be something that like a type A ADHD person would do who doesn't know what they're doing. They'd be like, I just need to pick up a hammer and start like hitting something. Like this is if I start to get anxious that like like at home, because I can't hang up a picture at my house. And so but if I feel like things got to get done, I'll just like pick up tools and be like, I need to put a hole somewhere. Like, let me just hit a wall, and I'm sure I can figure this out. And Esther's like, how about you just calm down and get your dad here? Like, all right, like I can start there. And so Nehemiah, what he does is he actually gathers the right people. Now, the right people that he gathers are probably not the people we would expect you'd gather for like a rebuilding campaign, okay? It's like, and we'll go through it, but the first thing we need to understand when we are going to rebuild is that rebuilding requires people. And so Nehemiah pulls these people together, and he starts explaining to them the issue. And in Nehemiah 2:17, he says, "Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire." Just tell it like it is. "Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king has said to me," because the king was letting him do it. "And they replied, let us start rebuilding." So they began the good work. Again, Nehemiah knew that he desperately needed help. And the people that he finds, they write them down a couple chapters later. He got goldsmiths, he got priests, he got bakers, they talk about daughters and servants and rulers and guards and priests. He basically gathered a bunch of people who you would not gather to rebuild anything. It'd be like if you were doing that and you got a bunch of me's and you're like, okay, Jansen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to rebuild the brick walls of this building. I'd be like, you know what? I think you've got the wrong person. Like, I'm not the guy. But Nehemiah, for whatever reason, he knew that it was going to take a village to rebuild what was. And so he got everybody who had any stake in the game. He got them together and he's like, here's what we're going to do. So you saw bakers, you saw goldsmiths, you saw guards, you saw servants. Everybody was there. You see, God is not concerned with resumes, qualifications. He's not concerned with the story that you think is so shameful that you can no longer be used to do anything important. What he is concerned with is willing hearts who are ready to do his purpose here on the earth. I think it is so important because if we're not careful, what we will do is we'll carry our shame and the disgrace that we feel, and we'll use that as an excuse for God. I just need more time. I just need to get alone with God. And I sometimes think God is standing there like, no. I want to use your story to reach people. I think God actually saying, like, the stuff you've been through, like the city that you're in, the community that you're in, it actually needs to see the scars that you're carrying in order for others to find hope and healing. It's the only way this works. What's not going to happen is, like, God's not going to send down a bunch of angels who are going to start walking through this door and be like, all right, people, we're going to go into the streets and we're going to get people in. Like, that's just not how it works. He's not going to come, Jesus isn't going to come back and be like, I'll do this with you. Let's do this thing. Like, flesh and blood Jesus, let's go. Like, everybody's going to listen to me. No, in God's master design, he said, I want the goldsmiths, I want the bakers, I want the priests, I want the customer service, phone answerers, I want the Verizon people, I want the techs, I want the IT, I want the truck drivers, I want the engineers, I want the doctors, I want the lawyers, I want everyday people who I have given gifts and abilities to rebuild great things on the earth. And so Nehemiah knew he needed people. He needed people. And so what he basically does is tell them, like, listen, this thing is not good. Like, it's in ruins, but I need you to know that God is with us. And I love that their response was, they didn't even ask questions. They're just like, let us start rebuilding. Again, today, the work of rebuilding requires people. This church requires people. In order for the ministry of this church to have the largest impact that it can on this city, it requires people. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't already been a substantial amount of people making this thing function day in and day out. It's actually been pretty incredible that over the course of the last, 8 months, there has been a strong contingent of people who have just continually said yes when something's needed to be done. We've got people who are counting money and hanging out with youth and at the doors and it's like we've got people baking. We've got people in kids week in and week out. We've got people on the worship team week in and week out. We've got people building beds in the city week in and week out. There has been people through truly blood, sweat, and tears have decided that what is happening here is worth holding on to. So we've seen in this community resiliency. We've seen the inability to give up. We've seen the inability to say no when everybody else is saying no. What we've seen are people who are grounded and just saying, hey, let us keep building. The question is, have you been enjoying this thing we call church? Have you taken the step to join the team that says, I want to be a builder? Because Nehemiah knew I need people. So when it comes to rebuilding, I need people. The next thing we see in the story of Nehemiah is that you need to know your ops. You got to know the people who hate you. You just have to. Like the people who are mad and annoying, you just got to know. Now, if you're anything like me, you think that there are certain people who just, like other drivers, for example, like we just don't get along. It's just like a part of it, okay? If I have an issue with if I'm just being frank, I would probably be the ops of the people I'm describing right now, okay? I am the problem, and I understand that, and I'm working through it. So, like, if my internet speed goes down even like a little bit, I lose it. I can't help myself. It's like, what do you mean? And so I'll call, and I'm on the phone way too long because I am angry, and I just fight. And so now it's like we're fighting over something that's just so stupid. But you have to know like your opposition, and you have to be really good at blocking out the noise. Apparently Mitchell is really good at doing that with his wife, and that's something he's working through. But like you have to figure out, how can I block out the noise? The best thing I ever did for myself was get Apple AirPods that have noise canceling, and so if I'm going shopping and I don't want to talk to anybody, I just turn the noise canceling on, and I'm antisocial, and it's weird, and again, I'm working through it, but you have to learn to block out the noise. My daughter is 8 years old. She just started playing video games. I don't know where it came from. I'm into it because it's amazing. And so she's got this, she plays Marvel Rivals. I think I told you she spent like $110 of my money, that made me panic. That was a scary day. But she's got these like noise canceling headphones that she will put on. And you could literally be standing in the same room and like literally yelling. And she just doesn't hear a thing that you are saying. She is so locked in. And you have to like go up to her and be like, you gotta fix this. Like, take the headphones off. You gotta get off this. She's locked in, but she blocks out the noise. Now, in Nehemiah, there was these guys in Nehemiah 4. Their names are Sanballat, which is a terrible name, and Tobiah. Again, don't name your kids that if you're having them. It says, when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, what are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are? Meanwhile, the people in Judah said in verse 10, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there's so much rubble, we cannot rebuild the wall. Also, our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them, and we'll kill them and put an end to the work. And in verse 12, it goes even further. Then the Jews who lived near them came and told them 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. Now, Nehemiah faced different types of opposition. There was external opposition from the people around them. Now, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. Again, I don't know why, but I am. And so it just is what it is. I've been my whole life, and I can't change, and I want to, and I'm trying, but I can't. And so in Western New York, everybody is a Bills fan. I believe it kind of happens here, which is disgusting. I thought I was leaving it. Like when I left Rochester and came here, I was like, thank God I don't have to hear from any more these weird cultish Buffalo Bills fans, but there's some sprinkled in. It's disgusting. So anyway, not in this church because we're way better than that, but in most places. And so I remember I've only been to one NFL game in my life because I'm a Dolphins fan, and you go to Buffalo, and I wore a Dolphin shirt, but I had a zip-up on because Buffalo's just not a nice place at all. Like, it's actually terrible. You go, and we did like the tailgate thing. We brought a charcoal grill, which got stolen, by the way, in the Buffalo Bills parking lot because they do not care about people in Buffalo. And so that's hilarious. Clip that and send it. Anyway, no, Josh Allen just got married and it was beautiful. Okay. Anyway, I better just keep going, otherwise I'm going to say offensive things. So we do the thing, and then it's like a gauntlet from where we were in the parking lot to the stadium. It was awful. And I zipped up very quickly. I knew that this is not going to be a good experience if they see that I'm wearing a Miami Dolphins shirt. I just knew. You could just feel it. My cousin, who's with me, did not zip up his jacket at all. I think he didn't even think he had it on. And it was just bright green Dolphins gear. And the amount of horrible things that were said to me, I don't know that I've fully recovered from, because it's just who's taking this seriously? Why are you this mad? One guy literally said, it's an NFL stadium. It's a professional game where there's two opposing teams with fans. He literally is I have never seen this in all my years here. It's what are you talking about? They're playing. It's not like they were playing some other, the Eagles, and we're just there in our Dolphins gear. It was absolutely insane, the amount of opposition we faced. And then the Dolphins got absolutely destroyed, and it was, thank God, we probably would have gotten beat up after if they won. But anyway, if you've ever done something like that, you understand the threats and how they can affect your psyche. And in a much more serious way, this is what the Israelites were experiencing from the people around them. Sanballat just heard that they were trying to rebuild the walls. And he's like, we're going to kill them. Game over, we're going to kill them. Now you have to remember that these guys were not warriors. Goldsmiths aren't warriors. The servants and the daughters and the rulers, they are not battle-trained people. It isn't 300. They didn't get Nehemiah didn't go around like we would have and gotten the strongest, most capable people we could find. He didn't go to he didn't find the Corey Brooks of the room who ruck. I don't even know why people are rucking, but he rucks with 50-pound packs on. You want that guy building with you, because if someone attacks you, you just hide, and then Corey takes care of it. But he didn't do that. He just got anybody who was willing to give up something, and he gathered those people, and now they have a serious problem, because not everybody is going to be a fan when your thing starts succeeding. Not everybody's going to be a fan when the church starts growing. Not everybody's going to be a fan when people start coming, when lives start to get saved and transformed. Not everybody's going to be a fan. So you want to be confident that you are surrounding yourself with the right people. And so, he doesn't have, and then it gets even worse, because now, outside of the external, threats, which were bad, it was scary. And we'll talk a little more about it, because, the other issue was, they actually had, internal opposition. Their own people, it says they were fatigued and they were tired. They were at the point where it's I don't know. It says the strength of the laborers is giving out. And then once you start to get tired, all your problems get magnified by tenfold. Now they're looking at the rubble around them, and now it's not rubble, it's a mountain. And they're saying to them, there's no way we can do this. You see, this is where I believe that the people of Israel were experiencing burnout. Now, in some ways, burnout is an unavoidable reality, because every human being has limits. Okay, so as it relates to burnout, I think there's only a few things you can do, because everyone in here at some point, and not even just here at church, but in your life, you will run into a wall where the fatigue just hits you. And you have to be able to do something with the fatigue, because if you don't do something, you will look at your problems and they will become mountains. You will make mountains out of molehills. So you need to figure out, how can I have perspective about the situation that I found myself in? What is the thing I am chasing, and what am I focusing on? Because if you are chasing the wrong thing, you will quickly run into burnout. You have to look at your boundaries if you are in a season of burnout. What are you saying no to? You have to learn the joys of saying no. It'll go a long way. Like if you say yes to everything, you're going to burn out. And then you have to understand that sometimes being tired is actually increasing your capacity to hold more. If you work out, which I don't, you would know that muscle fatigue is actually a good thing at times because you are building the strength to continue and do more the next time you come. So we can talk a lot more about burnout, but we don't have time today. But I just need you to know that it's an unavoidable reality that fatigue will come. You just have to understand, what am I chasing and what am I doing this for? Okay, so you need to block out the noise because they start saying this is too much. We're never going to figure this out. We're too tired. And Nehemiah basically stops everyone. And he's like, we need to remember what we are doing this for. We need to understand the sacrifice. He says, after I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles and the officials and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome. Fight for your families, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. This is like his Braveheart moment. He is just like, you have to remember why we are doing this. When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and got frustrated, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. And each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. Neither I nor my brothers, nor my men, nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon, even when he went for water. We see in this story that builders became battlers. They had tools in one hand, weapons in the other. Now they're doing whatever it takes to finish the project. He says that they didn't take off their clothes. We're led to believe that they worked so hard. They didn't rest, they didn't break, they didn't change their clothes. There was no time for that. We have to finish the project. And then everyone contributed, even if it wasn't their trade. None of them were really warriors. And it says they were grabbing the materials with one hand and swords in the other. It would be a ridiculous thing to see. Because how are you actually going to fight? But there was something about the mentality. They're like, no, I'll drop this and I'll cut you if I have to. Like, we are going to do this thing. And they became obsessed with completing the project. And we need to understand that rebuilding and growing and building the church is not a spectator sport. None of this happens by happenstance. None of it happens by accident. It's a group of people who decide that they're going to be multifaceted in their approach to life. And so they will pick up things they're not good at. They'll do things they're not trained at. They'll just say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to build my wings on the way down. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present and committed. So the question we have to ask is, what are we willing to pick up in order to build the church? What are we good at? What are we gifted at? What can we contribute to make the church successful? Because at the end of the day, you and I, if you call this your church community, you have to show up. Actually, the city and the community is actually they are expecting. They might not even know it, but they are expecting that you and I show up. It's just like, we got married on August 4th, 2012. The day was incredible because you got to plan your wedding. If you're getting married, there's a couple things you need to know. You want to plan music accordingly because you want people to cry at your wedding. And so you plan music that makes people cry. It just helps everything. It makes you feel good. It makes the whole thing better. So do that. And then you want everything to be dramatic. And everything is dramatic about a wedding. It's like one of the old standbys of things that we've held on to, and I remember the wedding day. I showed up not as early as my wife because they had to do a lot more to get ready. I just showed up and put my tux on, and I was ready to go. It took 10 minutes, which is awesome. And then you're just sitting around, but the anticipation is palpable. You know what I mean? Like, you can feel it in the air that this is like actually a special day. And like slowly people start trickling in, and you start to notice all the people that you invited that aren't showing up, and you're like really annoyed, but you're trying to get over it because like this is a big day. And so like I remember at ours, like Esther got these flowers, and whoever did it, it was just awful. It looked like stalks that were just like, she pulled them out of the garden that morning. It was disgusting. And so like the girl that was supposed to be playing violin, she had to run to Wegmans actually, and Wegmans put together her like bouquet, which was like 1,000 times better than the stalks that were in the fridge when we got there. Like, it was beautiful, but it was stressful. But it's like everything is building up to the moment when like the bride shows up. Like, that's why everybody's there. So everybody's sitting, the guys come in and nobody cares. You know, you walk in, they're like, oh, he looks cute. And like, oh, they're so handsome. But nobody cares. And then you're standing and everything's dramatic, you know. The music's going. We should probably have music now. Ginger, can you come play music? Because we need music. It's drama. It helps. And so like the music's playing. And like every wedding does this, where like the bridesmaids like slowly walk down the aisle. There was like a trend where like that one song, people were like sprinting down the aisle, and I was like, that makes sense. But the bridesmaids are going, and like you don't care. Nobody cares about the bridesmaids. Like, nobody does. Everybody who's in the wedding thinks that you care about the bridesmaids. And the bridesmaids, some of them are so egotistical that they think this is for them. It's not. The bridesmaids don't matter because everybody is waiting for the bride. And so like we have the best music, okay? And so like the bridesmaids come, my sister's in it, so I gave her like a special nod because of my sister, and like they come through. And then like the doors at the back of this, we had this old chapel in the city of Rochester that we shouldn't even have had because we weren't members of the church, but like we just pulled strings. It was amazing. And it was beautiful. And everything was perfect. And so like the doors closed, and we picked music that like crescendos because again, you want people to cry. So like, and then on one of the crescendos, the doors swing open, and then the bride is standing there. Everybody stands up. Everybody's crying. My mom's crying. Like, everyone is in tears. And it's the perfect moment that every wedding would want. Like, you want that. Now, how awkward would it have been if the table is set, everything is how it's supposed to be, the bridesmaids come through, everybody's happy, everybody's awesome. How awkward would it be if the door swung open and Esther got cold feet? It would have been so weird if the door swung open and the bride didn't show. People would be whispering to themselves, like, did they miss it? Was it the wrong crescendo? Like, they would have been looking around like, what do we do now? And slowly people would have started standing up and like trickling out of the room, and it would have been like this weird thing that people talked about later. In about a month, someone may have contacted me and been like, dude, are you good? Like, that was really weird. Like, are you okay? Like, it would have been awkward. You need to understand that right now, like the world is waiting for the church to show up. It is like wedding day every day for the souls of the people who are far from God. And every single day that our feet hit the floor and we make the decision that today, in this moment, at this time, I'm too tired, I'm too dragged out, I've got too much going on in my life, I've done too much wrong, I'm too far gone. Every time we make the conscious decision that we are too busy and too bad to help build the church, it is as if the bride is not showing up. I want you to know that the earth, the world, and the people in this neighborhood, whether they know it or not, their souls are craving for you and I to show up. It is like wedding day for the souls of the people in our area. And sometimes it starts with a simple yes. A yes that says, you know what? Let us start rebuilding. I don't know how, I don't know what, I don't know where, but I've got to do something to show up for the wedding day. And so what we are going to do is you and I are going to rebuild the walls of at least this community. We are going to do what we can to reach as many people as possible with the good news of Jesus. And it can start small. For some, the idea of just showing up and standing at the door and welcoming people that are coming in is a big deal. And you need to do that. For some, you've been sitting here and you are an outrageously talented musician. I need you to know that you cannot play instruments if you don't have one in front of you. And so, that can be your way. For others, it's like, I'm just gifted at sitting around with kids and teaching them Jesus on their level. I want you to know that doing these things is no small feat. Being in the basement downstairs, if you've never been there, good luck. It is a wild place. But going down there and making coffee, it's actually the work of the ministry. It is actually helping other people experience the good news of Jesus. Now, is there anything special about it? No. It's the action of saying, I'm going to rebuild. For others, it's like tech and production. You just look at it and you're like, oh, this seems exciting. I don't know anything. Well, we'll train you. But there's something significant about the yes. For others, it's signing up to be involved with the refugee outreach and the roots and recipes and planting the gardens and helping with the food pantry. Like, it matters. For others, it's signing up and making sure that anytime we're building beds in our city, like, you are there, you're showing up, and you're bringing friends. It matters. Now, again, contribution can look different. I just want you to know that in this place, for the last 10 months, there has been a small group of people through blood, sweat, and tears making this thing run. And the more that it just stays a small contingent of people, it becomes impossible to show up for the community because we're tired, people get drawn out, they get burned out, and they think that this is no longer for them. The worst thing we can do to each other is make each other believe that this rides and dies on me, that this rides and dies on a small group of people. We all have something to contribute to make a big deal about Jesus in our city. So our plan is to equip you. Our plan is to train you. And just for some practical things for you right now. And if you're new here, this is maybe for you. Maybe it's as good for you to hear. But if you've been here for a while, definitely talking. Okay, I thought I left you for a second. That was crazy. Kids ministry right now. In order for kids to sustain growth, that is going to be our first barrier to attracting more families to this place, is the lack of kids volunteers. If we had 5 more people say, you know what, I'll help out in kids, it will do wonders for us showing up on the wedding day. Our first impressions and welcome team, Olivia, Amy, Sarah, Sarah and Olivia are down in that basement every single week with a smile on their face. Marika's down there. She comes up and tells me, she's like, we got to do something down there. And I'm like, yeah, we do. Okay, we're going to. It's happening. There are so many people doing 8 different things. If that team had 8 more people, the margin we would create in this community would allow us to grow. Our tech and production world, thank God for Kevin, thank God for Spencer, thank God for Edwin. If we had 3 more people who wanted to even learn tech and production, we will allow this thing to grow. Our worship team, if we had more instrumentalists, if you play drums, if you play bass, if you play guitar, if you can sing. If you can't sing, don't sign up. We cannot train good vocals, okay? So if you cannot sing, please, for the love of God, don't make us tell you you can't sing. It's a hurtful conversation, but someone needs to tell you, and so we will. But if you have the ability, you need to sign up. All of this matters because it allows us to show up with margin. It allows us to show up with a smile on our face. It actually will add to you. John said yesterday when we were building the beds, he's like, after I do this, it's 2 days of just smiling because I realize I've contributed something practical and great for our city. There is nothing like showing up to a place where the only furniture they have are the beds you have built. It is being the hands and feet of Jesus. This is not a call to make the brand of this church better. This is not a call to put on a lanyard and buy our merch. No, it is truly, we want you to be the hands and feet of Jesus. To look around and say, let us start rebuilding. So today, over in that corner, you can call it the coffee corner, the confessional corner. I like confessional corner because the confessional booths are there, which is great. We don't use them, by the way. They're just there. There's going to be people there who would love to help you sign up to get more involved and push the mission forward. We want to equip you, we want to help you, and we want to see a city reached. So church, let us start rebuilding. Jesus, we thank you that you are good. We thank you that your plan and purposes for this city are good. We thank you that the story for this church and the city are not finished yet. And God, we are grateful that we get to be a part. So wherever you're at, wherever we are at, God, I ask that you would meet us right there. God, that you would tug on our souls in only the way that you can. God, that you would remind us and convict us about the areas where we can contribute, in the ways that we can contribute. And God, we ask that you would help us to rebuild the local church, that we would truly become the hope of the world. We thank you that heaven is open over this house, that heaven is open over every family and individual who is represented here. We pray your grace and your peace over all of us. In Jesus' name. And the church said, amen. Now again, if you want to get involved, Mitchell is going to close the service. That was amazing.
All right, thank you, Pastor Josh. That was an awesome sermon as usual. Yeah, guys, just to echo that message and wrap it up, as I said before, I think, looking around left and right, shoulder to shoulder with some of the people here, I've had the honor of meeting a lot of you guys in different circles, whether it be worship team or the bed building, serving, and just going to different, men's group, different nights, different activities, and it's meant a lot to me. And I do, really think there's some awesome people here, and there are really cool ways to get to know them. There's something for everybody. I think there's a lane. We've got a lot of, pipelines here, so to speak, different lanes you can go in. I think it really, there's a lot. Really ways to use your different skills and abilities, and I think there is something for everybody. So I would encourage you just personally to dive in, to shake a hand today that you haven't shaken before, to say hello to a new face, and see, be open and be willing and see where God leads you in that. So yeah, should I pray and close this out? Or just all right, we'll see you back there in the corner. Have a great Sunday, have a great week, and go in peace. Amen.